Well, Shanahan and McVay, amongst the most hardcore new age analytics people, are both way too conservative, is what they believe.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Once again, though, when you think about who's won the last, 20 Super Bowls, Andy Reid and Belichick are pretty high, and then let's put Coughlin on there with 2. I don't know who else has more than 2 or more than 1. Does anyone else have more than 1? Steelers don't. I mean, they do, but they're 2 different coaches. But yeah, so Reid and Belichick are both old school on those types of decisions, right? So in a way, who should you emulate? What was it? I already forgot his name. The Chargers.
Brandon Staley.
Staley, yeah. Should we emulate Staley or Andy Reid?
I'm gonna go with Andy Reid.
I mean, Fez, what do you think?
Well, unless I'm a bad team, Andy Reid. If I'm a bad team, Brandon Staley. Yeah.
Now, I do think Steel Manning, the other side of this, you could say, well, no one was kind of doing this until 3 or 4 years ago, so we don't have enough sample to really know who's going to win and who's not when everyone's doing it, because no one was doing it before. So in a way, the old school was just increments or along the spectrum of old school, but everyone was old school, right? It was like, who was the most provocatively dressed girl in 1948, right? She doesn't make any list right now on the Strip, right? Like, maybe if she's shown her ankles or whatever. So, I mean, I think that's a fair way to look at it. I wonder Fez, if you had to guess in the next 10 years, are we going to have, if we rated the coaches 1 to 32 by how aggressive they are, what do you think the average Super Bowl winner would be rated the year they won it? So 16 would be exactly average. Obviously, if you said, and let's say number 1 is the most aggressive.
It's kind of a trick question because obviously it helps you win the Super Bowl to be aggressive. But if I'm the best team, I kind of want to be a little conservative and minimize variance.
And they have a better chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now, Dan Campbell hasn't changed at all.
No.
Because we thought, hey, he was super aggressive. Scott, and you speak to this. He was super aggressive when they were underdogs years ago. Mm-hmm. He seemingly is more aggressive now.
Yeah. And you know what? It was they were 4 of 5 in the last game. The one was very
on fourth down.
Yep. The one was very costly, but they still won the football game. And it left a lot of people, whether it's in the media, on social media, all this saying that when it comes to the playoffs, there's going to be a decision that's going to cost them. Because he's not going to change the way that he coaches, and there's going to be an overly aggressive decision in the playoffs that they're not going to convert.
I largely agree with most of what Campbell does because it's like a no-limit poker player. Being aggressive is typically correct, all things being equal. And like that last decision was a slam dunk, and the announcer's like, he can't really be going for this. He's just trying to draw him off sides. And it wasn't even close if you worked out the math.
And that brings up...
No, the analytics, ESPN, Amazon, they all said that they should have kicked.
They're wrong. I can show. I do hack out the math. I've already done it. So if I can present it right now.
Fez, talk about the exact situation you're talking about. Let's make sure we're talking about the same one.
It's the end of the game. It's not the one where they're on their own 30. All right, it's the end of the game. The game is tied, and there's approximately a minute left. A little less
40
than a minute.
seconds.
Yeah, 40 seconds left, and Green Bay, Detroit has the ball 4th and 1, and it's from about the 25-yard line? 21-yard line.
Yep.
And so Campbell decided to go for it on 4th down. Essentially, if he picks it up, he wins the game. I know the kicker could miss, but...
And it might be one of those things we talked about this last week. The analytics say 1 yard is 1.5 yards to 1.5 yards, where it was really like an inches situation.
So here's my math.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear what he said, it's not 1.5 yards to 1.5 yards. It's going to be 0.5 to 1.5. So it literally could be that range that's called 1 yard.
I think it was a yard. I think it was like 1.0 yards. So I think they're going to pick that up like 2/3 of the time. What do you guys think?
Maybe a little more than that.
Yeah, I would think a little more.
I
mean,
agree.
Best offensive line in football?
I agree. So I'm going to be conservative. So they play 100 times, all right? 67 times they make it. Boom, they run out the clock. They kick. I'm just going to assume for the sake of making it a little cleaner, they're going to make the field goal.
98% yard kick.
So they're going to win 60. If they play 100 times, they're going to win 67 times. But what about that other 33 where they fail? I'm going to make the case they're probably going to win about 13 of those 33 because now that obviously Green Bay gets the ball. Green Bay gets the ball in their own 20. Green Bay has the advantage, but it's not that big of an advantage. What do you think about that number, RJ?
You know something? You're better at this than me. I'm going to accept that.
All right, so if I take 67 plus 13, bang, Detroit is going to win 80 out of 100. So think about this. They're a minus 400 favorite. The second they go out there, they're going for it. They're a minus 400 favorite. Or they can kick
What did the in-game odds do when they made it? Was there any adjustment you could see when they decided to go for it?
No. I should have, but I didn't. I wasn't monitoring it.
It's great that it's amazing that you had 80% as the number, because that's what Ben Baldwin
That's what the bot said, 80.
80% if they go for it, and then he said slightly more if they kick the field goal.
83% if you do the field goal.
Okay, now, and here's where I strongly disagree. For as a guy that watches football all the time,
and they're banged up on defense.
Absolutely, this is a 39-36 type game. All right, Green Bay gets the ball back with a full minute left on their own 30, or with 40 seconds left on their own 30. To say that they only have a 20% chance to win just doesn't. It's just completely wrong. I mean, when I watch teams again and again and again, and I think like Tampa Bay had like 28 seconds left. They went down and kicked the field goal, went to overtime. It happens all the time.
Here's the thing that can't be overcome. There's been a evolution in how teams go for it on fourth down, how effective they are at those kind of things, that hasn't gone on long enough to have a big enough sample size to have the truth of today's game.
Exactly. Yeah. So they look at the 20-year data and they say the Redskins are dead. Washington can't come back, and then boom, scary Terry McLaurin, 90 yards, touchdown. And it's happening. It's happening too many times.
But the funny thing about this is it's literally saying whatever Ben Baldwin or those projection numbers are saying, they're actually conservative in a way. Because usually it's people are saying, don't go for it, don't go for it. Well, the fact is, if the other team is going to score more often if you give them the ball, and because then in the history of the data that they have, right, because it's evolved that way, and also the fact you will get the first down more because offenses are a little bit it means
everything points towards going for it.
Yeah, so
all these numbers are conservative,
and most people think that those bots are crazy.
So it even says on the Baldwin bot, it says, "Note: these are estimates. Please use accordingly. On 4th and 1, the model cannot know whether it is a long one or a short one. Shorter distance would favor going. Do not use this in overtime. Use with extreme caution in the final minute of a game, as the model is not good with end of game clock scenarios."
And there's no model right now that's public that is good with. It's just too complicated right now.
Yep.
For the systems, I think if we put someone from OpenAI on it, they could do it. But I mean, there's some elite people doing analytics, but it's not those $1 million people typically at OpenAI. But again, it's pretty good. I always question the fact they're so different, some of these projection models, that how accurate could any one be if they disagree with each other? Right?
Yes.
So, Mackenzie, you've looked at a lot of two different ones at different points.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say the average delta is? Delta is the word of the day, between the two projections on these decisions that are noteworthy.
I'd say if you're looking at the distance between either two decisions, it's maybe like 5%, or like 50%. So what I mean is, like, one will say 4%, the other's going to say between -2 and 6. It's going to be somewhere in there.
Okay.
And part of this, they always talk about, well, the games, the coach has to figure out the game situations, probability of success, et cetera. And as RJ mentioned, the offenses on both sides were dominating in this game. So it has to lead you to let's be more aggressive.
Which is what Dan Campbell said, and I agree with him.
But not the most dominating offensive performance. We'll get to that. Let's finish up this game, though.